Hello, it's Sierra Mist, the shape-shifting superstar from RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18, and welcome back to Runway Recreation. Every week we are recreating the makeup looks that I was going to serve to you on the runway of RuPaul's Drag Race, even though some of them have had to only live over here on the internet. I know, it is sad. You were robbed of some fierce looks on that main stage, but don't worry, that's why we are bringing it to you here. You cannot miss out on all of this fierceness. If you are interested in getting a little bit of insider tea on the looks, getting early access, or just having a more direct line with me, yours cruelly, then head on over to sierramist.com and you can check out all of the Patreon options, or you can just go to Patreon directly. We are not in the studio. Well, the runway category for this week was Wholesome to Folsom. And I said, well, why would I not go to Folsom? So here I am in San Francisco. The bisexual lighting came with the room. They must have known I was coming. So yes, I literally am staying in the Signature in San Francisco. So Folsom Street is literally right outside my window, which is crazy. San Francisco has a big queer history. There are so many change makers who have helped pioneer queer rights. And because of that, San Francisco has continued to be a safe space for the queer community. As champions for expression and queer liberation, it is also the home of Door and Folsom, which are kink-related street fairs. So leather, rubber, all of that business, that is happening and being celebrated here. That's the reference in this runway category. Something demure to something a little bit kinky. This was the perfect opportunity for me to bring back Sierra Mister. Now, we saw the makeover look last week, and for that, we had Mr. Mist, Christopher, but he was in a Sierra Mister kind of face chart because I wasn't sure if I did the makeover on the show, who I would be getting for a makeover subject, so I had to be prepared for anything. And I love an opportunity to bring Sierra Mister out. And when I saw the Wholesome to Folsom category, I was like, this was made for him. Now, some of you had your first introduction to Sierra Mister during press week, and part of why he was so important for me to bring is because I knew that unfortunately I didn't have the chance to bring him to the main stage, which was something I was really excited for. I have been so inspired in my own artistry by drag kings all around me, and I'm so fortunate to work with so many amazing kings and mask entertainers in my local community. Performing with them and seeing their artistry inspires me. As one of the makeup designers for indie drag theater, I also have the amazing privilege of working with so many kings to help grow and expand their makeup. Masculine makeup is also one of my favorite things to do. Sierra Mister is not a new creation. He is a part of me as well. As much as he is a celebration of drag kings that inspire me, he is also a character that I built for myself. I said it a little bit on What You Packin', but the opportunity to be perceived as hyper masculine, to exaggerate that part of gender, is something fun that's part of drag, and it's not necessarily who I get to be in my day-to-day life. I wouldn't say that growing up I was celebrated or praised or recognized for being super macho and masculine. So to play this sort of like himbo macho character is really fun and healing for me. That's a great part of the transformation of drag. This shirt is actually part of the original Sierra Mister merch launch that I did 6 years ago. He has been with me for a while, and that's why it was so important to try and bring him to Drag Race. And since he didn't stomp the main stage, we're doing it here on Folsom Street. Hello. We have a lot to do today, so we're wasting no time. If you like this design, comment below. I could maybe do like a re-release on sierramist.com since this is archival. It's old. Let me slip out of this shirt. All right, we are naked, we are bald. It sounds like we're ready for Folsom. Now, as Corey King once said very astutely, it's prosthetic time. I have this amazing jawline chin piece from RBFX Studios. They helped supply most of the prosthetics for me this season. Incredible pieces. So I am going to go ahead and work on getting this applied for you today. First, I'm applying a thin layer of Prosade to the back of my prosthetic appliance. I'm leaving room around the edges so that way we have the opportunity to have a really clean blend. At the same time, I'm applying a thin layer of Prosade onto my face, concentrating mostly in the center point of my chin since that will be our anchor. When the Prosade goes clear, that's when you know it's ready to tack together. We've been through this. Normally, I would wait and hit it with a hairdryer or something. We gotta keep this makeup a-pumping. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep the upper half of my face with my primer. We are squeezing the last of the life out of this ELF Power Grip Primer. This stuff is good. I really like this. It's hydrating, but tacky. There are a few primers that I've used before that have a little bit more of a blurring quality to them on the pores, and as a woman of a certain age, we love that. Usually those are a little bit more putty based, and I prefer the feeling of something that's a gel. Now that the prostate is clear, we can work from the center outward and press the prosthetic onto our face slowly, and then add more prostate on the sides of our face to tack the rest of the prosthetic down. And you can see I'm using the back of a brush in sort of a rolling motion to help keep the edges flat to the face. Now the edges on this prosthetic are already really nice. RBFX always has really great high quality prosthetics, but to help create a really seamless blend, we have to use some Bondo, especially right here in the middle of the face. I use a piece of ripped sponge to grab the thickened prostate cream, and that way as I'm stippling down the prostate cream, I'm getting sort of a natural texture as opposed to a straight line or a brush stroke. This is going to help make it more believably skin and help disguise where the edge is. It'll trick the eye. Now we're going to use a hairdryer to help this along. Now I'm swapping out the sponge for a smaller red sponge, so this has a tinier pore texture to it, and so that's going to help me kind of break up any of those bigger spots and really get it have a variety of skin textures. That looks pretty good, but we won't really know until we powder, and then that's when we can tell if we've gotten a really nice seamless blend. One last hairdryer. Now that the prostate cream is pretty clear, I'm going to go ahead and press some translucent setting powder into this. And we really want to press the powder into the edges here. That's going to help keep them flat and ensure an even more seamless blend into the face. Okay, right away I can see there's just a few spots right here in the middle that I'm going to want a little bit more of a smooth blend. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to touch up these edges and I'll be right back. Hello, it's Sierra Mist from the future doing a voiceover as we watch this clip. Sometimes you gotta make it up as you go. We're starting with a generous helping of Maybelline Superstay Foundation that we are slathering all across our face for an even skin tone. Blend that out, blend, blend, blend. And now to get into the contour. So masculine contour, we're gonna work with slightly different shapes than we would for our typical drag face. So right now I'm carving out sort of a square angular brow to create that cartoon furrowed look. I want to do the same thing by creating a really strong nose shape and squaring off the bottom of my nose. I'm doing all of this with Ben Nye Cream foundations, so that way I can blend them out easily. Now, whatever I was saying there, I imagine that I was telling you about this sort of angular shape and where sometimes masculine makeup can go sideways. The placement of this area is meant to exaggerate the brow bone and the ridge leading into the brow, and sometimes we put those spots a little too far in or out based on the other anatomy. So this is my roadmap of where I would put this based on where I've placed my brow. Carve out a strong cheek, and now we're going to move on to a cream highlight. We're going to use a lighter skin tone cream to exaggerate all of those shadows, and in the highest points for that really draggy contrast, we're going to go in with Ben Nye Clown White, of course. Now let's blend that all together, and in the blending process, I want to be mindful about not blending away some of the harsh lines, but we can soften and diffuse a few of them. We're going to re-exaggerate all of this with powder eventually. To mix up our 5 o'clock shadow color, I use a combination of Ben Nye Clown White creams as well as a navy color to get that sort of perfect stylized cool gray. Now let's blend that out. And then we can take that skin tone and just kind of diffuse that down onto the cheek a little bit. And then I want to take just a little bit of white and pop it into some of the highlights of this. A lot of our colors are really softened now. Those shapes have sort of been diffused by blending them. So we're going to set all of this with powder, and then we'll have an opportunity to re-intensify them later. To start the process though, I am taking a little bit of super white powder, and I'm going to use that to just keep the points that I want bright, and then the rest will get a neutral set. Now that we're powdered, I want to take a break from sort of the face for a second and get into the eyes, because there's a lot more dark colors that I'm using sometimes. Like it's more of like a halo eye effect. So I just want to be careful and mindful of any sort of fallout. I'm going to sketch out the shape of the brow. So for my Sierra Mr. Brow, it's sort of like a bat wing effect. Sort of like Bosco Demon Brow when that was like the vibe, but like thicker and stronger. So I still want to create lift in the brow, because we're doing drag. You can see this is where I'll need to adjust that highlight there, because I want this brow to be this big. This is the crest of that highlight. Using sort of an ashy brown, I'm filling in the shape of the brow that I've created and cleaning up around the edges with a white cream. This is again just a roadmap for my brows. It's all going to be filled in with jet black later. Like I mentioned, the eye makeup that I typically do for Sierra Mister is sort of like a halo eye effect. So I like to have a really dark inner corner, smoke it out kind of under, and a dark outside here, and then let the color kind of bloom from there. I feel like it's a really nice sort of like sultry, sexy way to wear product in a way that still feels intense and moody for the character that I'm creating. Because the color in my sort of look today involves, there's like an accent of lavender, which if you're familiar with the hanky code is a little nod. And if you're not familiar with the hanky code, I'm gonna let y'all figure that one out. I guess I'm in a purple era. We just dipped into a bunch of these colors for my Ghost Bride Swift Away look. So I'm dipping into sort of a lilac color first, and then we'll be going back and forth probably a couple of times to keep the intensity between the light colors and the darker color. We've got one eye on. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Both eyes are on. Admittedly, a little bit of fallout. We expected that. Tried to clean some of it up, but we have got to keep it pumping. Now I need to carve out the shapes of this nose, square it off. That's at least a little bit more symmetrical than it was before, and we've started to bring some depth back into the nose. So I think it's time we took the same approach on the rest of the face. We need to add depth and dimension and bring all of this back to life. And honestly, we need to do it kind of quickly. Now, part of what sells the look like this is contouring with a little bit of gray, so that way we can emphasize sort of the blue-gray that we've created with the beard. But it's important to not let it be like too gray, like blending this. What I usually do is I will map out the contour in gray, and then I will kind of tap maybe some like super white in the highlights, and then all of that I will take a neutral skin tone foundation and just sort of map that over the top of it, and that tends to like knock it back under the skin as opposed to feeling like contour painted on top, if that makes sense. We'll see it. Trust the process. Now, even if you don't have a prosthetic jaw on, the shape that I'm creating right now is something that you can achieve on your face to help emphasize your jawbone and your chin. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of cheating in here and pulling out in my contour, and it creates this sort of like really powerful chin shape like this. So it brings that forward, but from the front, it juts this area out. The other thing you can do is sort of pull in the contour here to separate the chin from the jaw. And that is going to make this area feel extra wide. Now this prosthetic is doing a lot of that work for me. So this is just sort of the drag on top of the drag situation, but any face shape, you can create a more dramatic chin and jaw by creating some artificial anatomy with your contour and your highlight. To help marry the gray into the skin, I'm just going back in with some contour colors to help kind of merge those two areas together. That way they don't feel so separate and it still feels like skin. Now, the face is coming together. There are sort of two areas left that remain. So I need to draw out a lip, which you're probably wondering, are you doing a Sierra Mist lip? If you saw in the Frankenstein, it is a little bit of a Sierra Mist lower lip, but that's about all we have room for because the other thing we have to do is draw a mustache. So I'm going to start with the lip, then we're going to draw the mustache and fill in the mustache and the beard at the same time, and then we are into the last details. We are getting so close. Let's do it. Okay, we've got a lip on, finally. Oof. Now for the mustache, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of mirror the same type of shape that we have going on the brows. So I'm gonna use the same technique of sketching it out in cream, setting it, and then we're gonna fill all of this in with powder and a black liner. Okay, we've got all of our facial hair mapped out. It's time to fill it in with black liner. So I'm gonna go ahead, get up into the mirror, do my finishing details while I fill that in, and I'll be right back. And just like that, the look is done. It is amazing how just filling in all of the shapes suddenly just brings it all together. The contrast like works. It's very Wario, Mario, Waluigi a little bit. And you know what? I live. The work is not yet done. Now I've got to get on the wig and the body and the butt and get this costume on and go out into the streets on Folsom and have a fierce, fabulous photo shoot. Let's go.
None of this would be possible without the support of all of my loyal misfits, especially my Patreon subscribers. A huge shout out to my top supporters:
To Go Moose, Jen Peterson, TD, Paige Rauschuber, Jetsam Adams, Asa, Ian Miller, Brantley Bitch, Mikey Reichart, Ilana, Discord Adams, Elias Gearing, Brian Starr, Roddick, Maddie D, Caitlin Egan, Max, Kit Sinclair, Nora B, Saren Clayton, Harry and Cindy S, Caitlin, Sadie, Nothing Shy, Siri, Kelsey McDaniel, Prison Guards, Crazy Dragon Lady, Pierre Bush, Hales, Allison Darlington, XX Dying Wolf XX, Catherine, Starry, Maddie Pugliese, Dawn Zalfier, Kaylee, Tanner Vogel just saying.
If you would like a special shout out or behind the scenes access, make sure you subscribe to the CRMS Patreon today.